The night was quiet on the far side of Earth's abandoned mining zone. Above ground, the stars looked peaceful, but far below, something old had started to stir. Buried deep under layers of rock and forgotten technology, a red light blinked. For the first time in 50 years, it was not just a light, it was a distress signal. And it had just activated again. Eli sat alone inside a small outpost tower. The only human stationed within 50 kilometers, he was a young technician, quiet, with messy brown hair and tired eyes. Most nights were the same. He checked sensors, cleaned filters, and stared at empty screens. But tonight, something strange happened. One of the old screens lit up, blinking red. He leaned forward and squinted, unsure if it was real. SOS signal detected, the system voice said. Flat and cold. Eli blinked, then rubbed his eyes. What? That's not possible, he muttered. The signal came from Zone 9, a restricted underground area. Closed for decades after a mining collapse. He tapped a few keys, digging deeper into the data. There it was, a short pulse every 20 seconds. Just like a heartbeat. Then something even stranger followed, a weak audio file, full of static. But underneath it, he heard a whisper, not a machine, not code, a voice. He turned up the volume and listened carefully. It was faint, female, and scared. Help me, it's still here. The voice said, broken by static. Eli sat frozen in his chair, goosebumps crawling up his arms. No way, he whispered. The signal was real. And something was alive down there. Official protocol said to report the anomaly and wait. But Eli had waited long enough in this dead place. He grabbed his portable scanner, a flashlight, and his jacket, then headed outside. The ground was cold and cracked as he walked across the field toward the old shaft entrance. Most of it was sealed with metal and stone, but there was one small maintenance tunnel left open for ventilation. He climbed inside, his breath echoing in the tight space. As he moved deeper underground, his flashlight flickered. He slapped it gently, then kept moving. The walls were marked with old mining signs and warning symbols. Do not enter hazard zone, keep OUT. But the signal was getting stronger. His scanner showed rising energy levels, almost like a pulse, and the voice returned, louder this time. Please. Someone, it hurts. Eli stopped, heart racing. This was no prank, no broken machine. Someone was really calling for help, and no one else could hear it. He kept walking. The tunnel opening into a wide chamber filled with old machines and strange remains. Rusty metal, broken glass, and something else, bones, small, twisted bones. Unlike any human he had ever seen, they were arranged in circles like a warning. Eli felt the weight of silence around him. He stepped over the bones carefully, his breath held tight in his chest. Then he saw it, a soft green glow coming from beneath a pile of rocks. He moved closer, brushing the stones aside. Underneath was a strange device, smooth and black, pulsing with energy. It looked like a heart made of crystal. And next to it, a metal pod with a small window. Inside the pod, something moved. Eli's hands trembled as he wiped dust from the glass. Behind the fogged surface, he saw her. A girl, not human, floating in liquid, her eyes closed, her skin pale and faintly blue. But her stomach was swollen, as if pregnant. Eli stumbled back in shock. What the hell? He whispered. Suddenly, her eyes opened, bright. Glowing silver eyes stared straight into his. She opened her mouth slowly, and through the speaker, he heard her voice again. Help me. Then the pod beeped, lights flashing fast. The heartbeat sound quickened, and the floor shook slightly. Something deep in the tunnel groaned, a sound not made by man or machine. It was alive, and it had felt the signal too. Eli looked back at the pod. The alien girl placed her hand weakly against the glass. Her eyes pleaded, her lips trembled. Eli swallowed hard and stepped forward. He placed his hand on the control panel, his fingers hovering over the unlock switch. I don't know what you are, he whispered, but I'm not leaving you down here. The signal continued to beep, louder and louder. Behind him, in the shadows, something large began to move. And beneath the earth, in that forgotten chamber, the real nightmare was only just beginning. Eli's breath was shaky as the metal door creaked open. The pod hissed softly as vapor escaped around its edges. A strange scent filled the air cold. Sweet, and not from this world. Inside, the alien girl stirred, her eyes still glowing faint silver in the darkness. She looked at Eli, not with fear, but with something deeper: exhaustion, confusion, and maybe hope. He helped her out slowly, wrapping his jacket around her trembling form. Her skin was soft and warm, but shimmered faintly in the dim light. She was lighter than he expected, like she had not eaten in days. Her feet touched the ground and her knees buckled. He caught her before she could fall. "You're okay," Eli whispered, unsure why he said it. She leaned against him, one hand over her stomach, the other grabbing his arm tightly. A strange pulse moved beneath her palm. He could feel it even through the jacket. Something shifted in the tunnel behind them. A distant growl echoed through the stone and steel, low, deep, and wet, like something breathing through thick mud. Eli turned, flashlight shaking in his hand. "Is something down here with you?" he asked. The girl didn't speak, but her eyes widened and her lips began to quiver. She pointed deeper into the tunnel, then tugged on his sleeve with urgent strength. They had to move. He wrapped one arm around her and led her away from the chamber. Every step echoed loudly, each one followed by another sound, not their own. Something heavy was moving behind them, always just out of sight. The tunnel sloped downward, leading them into a larger room. Old mining rails cut through the ground, twisted and broken. Strange markings covered the wall, symbols that glowed faintly blue as they passed. Eli noticed them, slowing for a second. The girl tugged him forward again, not allowing him to stop. As they crossed the room, she finally spoke in a low, trembling voice. "Bones. Here," she said, the word almost foreign in her mouth. Eli looked around and saw what she meant. The ground was scattered with bones, hundreds of them. Some were small like children, others too long to be human. They weren't just scattered, they were placed, arranged in spirals and lines like some ancient warning. Eli stepped over them carefully, trying not to disturb the patterns. He could feel something watching him now, pressing in from the walls. The girl touched her belly again and whispered something in her own language. Her voice shook with pain, and tears rolled down her cheeks. He knelt beside her as she fell to her knees, gasping. "Are you okay? Is it coming now?" he asked, not sure what he was even saying. She shook her head, then nodded, then whispered, "Soon, too soon." Her hand touched the floor, and it lit up faintly under her skin. The glowing lines moved, reaching across the stone toward the bones, and something woke up. The walls began to hum, a soft mechanical tone hidden beneath the surface. Old machines powered by forgotten energy began to stir. The entire tunnel seemed to breathe. Eli backed away, pulling her up again. She was weak but pointed to a narrow passage hidden behind a collapsed wall. He kicked the loose stones aside and helped her through. As they squeezed into the hidden passage, a deep roar tore through the chamber they had just left. The bones shifted and fell, crushed under something massive. Eli didn't look back. He pulled her down the narrow tunnel, past strange vents and broken metal. His lungs burned, and she was barely conscious, but they had to keep going. At the end of the passage they found an old shelter room, full of dust and decay. He closed the heavy hatch behind them and locked it tight. Then he gently laid her down and gave her water from his flask. She drank it fast, coughing and gasping. Her voice was barely a whisper, but he caught the words. "Not alone. It never left. It waits for birth." Ailey sat back, trying to understand. Something had kept her alive down here, but something else had also trapped her, and whatever it was still hunting. He looked at her swollen stomach. Whatever was inside her, it wasn't just a baby. In the silence of the room, Eli's scanner beeped again. The signal was no longer just SOS. It was something else now, something new. A second heartbeat, and it was coming from inside her. The walls of the shelter pulsed with dim green light, fading in and out like a heartbeat trapped in stone. Eli sat against the metal wall, his chest rising and falling fast, eyes locked on the strange girl now sleeping beside him. Her body twitched. Every few seconds, not from cold, but from something growing inside her. Something that shouldn't be alive, she mumbled in her sleep, her alien voice mixed with broken English. No light. Only teeth, I screamed. No one came. Eli didn't know what to do. He had patched her wounds with old med supplies, wrapped her in blankets, and locked the hatch. But none of that could fix the fear curling in his stomach. He wasn't trained for this, he was just a tech worker. With a curiosity problem, he stared at his scanner again, hoping it was broken, but it wasn't. It showed two life forms in the room, one large, weak, and breathing, and one smaller inside her. The smaller one wasn't normal. Its reading shifted constantly, like it was adapting every second, changing its shape and energy. The girl woke. Suddenly, sitting up with a gasp, her glowing eyes stared at him, wild and filled with terror. "Where are we?" she asked in a rough voice, as if she hadn't spoken for years. Eli hesitated, then answered quietly, "An old shelter. You were trapped in some kind of pod. I freed you." She blinked, trying to remember. "I saw your face. Through the glass. Thought it was a dream." Eli tried to smile, just a little. "Sorry, this is real," he said. Her hand moved to her stomach again, slowly, as if scared of what she might feel. A moment later, her face twisted with panic. "It's still there. Still inside me," she whispered. Eli leaned forward, keeping his voice calm. "What is it?" The girl closed her eyes and spoke like she was remembering a nightmare. "We came in peace. Ambassadors from the Alanthi people. We answered the call. A ship. A voice crying. It was a trap," her voice cracked. "They took us. Locked us underground. Studied us like animals." She looked at him with pain in her eyes. "I was alone when it found me. It was not alive. Not dead. It was something ancient. Something angry." Eli listened in silence. "I don't remember its face. Only the pain, and then blackness, and then I woke up. Inside that pod. With this thing inside me." She held back a sob, her entire body shaking. "It's not a baby," she said firmly. "It's a weapon." Eli sat frozen, trying to understand. Whatever was inside her was not just some alien infant. It was designed, created, maybe even engineered. For what? She didn't know, and neither did he. But one thing was certain, it was waking up. Suddenly, the floor vibrated under them. A pulse of sound echoed through the walls, low and deep. The lights flickered as dust rained from above. Eli jumped too, his feet grabbing his scanner. "Something's coming," he whispered. The girl stood too, though barely able to walk. Her skin glowed faintly now, reacting to the vibrations. "They know. The moment it breathes, they will come." Eli looked at her stomach beneath her skin. Something moved. It shifted like liquid, pressing outward, stretching, then vanishing. He stepped back without meaning to. "We can't stay here," he said. "Quickly. This shelter won't hold if it finds us." The girl nodded weakly, tears in her eyes. "Then take me somewhere it can't follow." Together they gathered what supplies they could find, mostly old rations. Batteries, a small energy pistol with one working charge. Eli helped her stand and led her to the far side of the room. A hatch in the floor opened into another tunnel, one not marked on his scanner. They climbed down into the blackness, flashlight shaking in Eli's hand. The deeper they went, the stranger the walls became. Smooth, no signs of mining, glowing with patterns that reacted to their presence. Not human-made, not even built by machines. The girl whispered as she walked, "This place. It's not Earth-made. It's older than that. This is where they grew it." Eli turned to her, his voice low. "What do you mean?" She placed her palm on the glowing wall, and it lit up around her. This was never a prison. It was a nursery. Eli's stomach dropped. They weren't just running from a monster. They were inside the place it had been born. And it was calling for its mother, asterisk. The tunnel had no end. Only curves that swallowed the light and echoed their footsteps. Like distant memories, Eli moved slowly, one hand gripping the flashlight, the other guiding the trembling alien girl by his side. Behind them, the air felt heavier, like something massive was waking up and breathing through the rock itself. She didn't speak much now. Her eyes stayed wide, scanning every surface like she expected something to jump from the walls. The glow under her skin had dimmed, but her hand still hovered near her stomach, as if afraid it would tear open. Eli had seen fear before training videos, emergencies, even a crash site, but this was different. This girl wasn't just afraid for herself. She was afraid for everything above ground. They passed through another arch, and the tunnel opened into a vast underground dome. The ceiling sparkled with crystals that lit up as they entered, casting pale blue light across the room. Massive pillars stretched from floor to ceiling, each carved with symbols that moved slowly, as if alive. It didn't look like a ruin. It looked maintained. Eli whispered without thinking, "This place is still working." The girl nodded, barely able to speak. "This was where they made the first one," she said, her voice like dry wind. "The monster?" Eli asked. She nodded again. "They didn't make it to be evil, only powerful. But it escaped." She walked forward and placed her hand on one of the glowing pillars. The symbols shifted, and a strange hum filled the air. A projection appeared, flickering images of beings like her, standing in a circle around a dark cocoon. It pulsed, cracked, then burst open, releasing a form with too many limbs and no face. The watchers tried to trap it, but it vanished into the shadows. The projection ended in static and a soft chime. Eli exhaled slowly. "That's what attacked you," he said, more a statement than a question. The girl lowered her hand. "It doesn't just attack. It infects. It wants to be reborn." Another tremor rolled through the ground. Stronger this time. The dome shook, and one of the pillars cracked at its base. The girl cried out, grabbing Eli's arm. "He's coming." "It feels the child." Eli checked his scanner. No life signs, just a rising heat signal beneath them. Whatever it was getting closer. He looked around and spotted a staircase leading downward. "Come on, we have to move again." As they descended, the girl stumbled, falling to her knees. She screamed and clutched her stomach. Something inside her kicked hard, a ripple running up her chest and down her legs. Eli rushed to her, kneeling fast. "Stay with me, you hear me? Don't give up." She grabbed his hand, her nails sharp but shaking. "It's not ready," she whispered. But at once out, they had to find a safe place fast. He lifted her as best he could, arm over his shoulders. The passage below led them into a chamber with smooth walls and an empty glass bed built into the floor. Machines surrounded it, ancient medical systems unlike anything Eli had ever seen. The symbols glowed bright when she entered, as if recognizing her. Without words, she moved to the bed and laid down. The machines whirred to life, scanning her. Her body shook again as the child inside pushed outward violently. Eli stepped back, unsure what to do. A soft voice played from the wall, alien language, calm and rhythmic like a lullaby. She tried to smile but couldn't, her face twisted in pain. "He wants to be born here," she said, "where the first one failed." Eli raised his flashlight and scanned the walls. He found a console with a blinking button red, just like the first SOS. It had alien text beneath it, but somehow he knew what it meant. Emergency PRG. He didn't press it, not yet. He looked back at her, and she looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I don't want to die," she said. "But if it comes out, everything dies." The ground exploded above them. Dust and rock falling from the dome. Something massive crawled through the hole. Long arms, glowing mouth. A body wrapped in shadows and bone. It roared, a sound that shook the walls and cracked the glass. Eli stepped in front of her, pistol raised with trembling hands. One shot, 1 second. Behind him, the girl screamed again as the birth began. He had to make a choice: protect her, or stop what was coming through her, and above it all. That heartbeat grew louder, faster, unstoppable. It began with a scream that wasn't hers. It echoed through the ancient chamber like metal being torn apart. Not pain, not rage, something deeper. Something that sounded almost like hunger. Eli spun toward the hole above, eyes wide, breath frozen. In his chest, the creature was lowering itself down slowly, limbs stretching unnaturally. It didn't walk, it slithered, wrapping its long arms around stone columns, pulling itself closer. Its face had no eyes, only a wide, wet mouth that split open sideways. Inside, thousands of tiny glowing teeth twitched in rhythm with the girl's heartbeat. The girl lay on the glowing bed, her body arched in pain. Her hands gripped the rails as something inside her shifted again. The machines around her blinked wildly, alarms flaring in strange alien tones. One of the monitors showed the life form inside her. It was moving too fast, growing too quickly. Eli stood between her and the creature, holding the pistol with shaking hands. One shot, he thought. Just one charge left. It wouldn't be enough to kill whatever this thing was, but maybe it could buy them time. The girl's voice broke through the chaos, weak and cracked. Eli, please, don't let it take him. He looked back at her, confused. You mean the baby? She nodded, sweat pouring down her face. It's not just a weapon. It's also me, part of me. Not like the others. The creature dropped to the floor. With a sickening thud, it reared back, sniffing the air with no nose, sensing through heat or sound or something else. Eli couldn't understand. Then it spoke, not with words, but with pressure. Eli felt it in his head, a voice like knives dragging across glass. Return the seed, it said. It belongs to the old blood. Eli gritted his teeth and fired. The blast of blue energy slammed into the creature's shoulder, sending black fluid splashing against the wall. It roared and twisted, smashing a nearby console into dust. The girl screamed again, her body glowing now, veins lit up in silver fire. Her child was being born not through flesh, but through light and energy. The machines tried to stabilize her, but they began to shut down one by one. Eli ran to her side, ignoring the approaching monster. What do I do? He yelled. She opened her eyes, shining brighter than ever before. Help him come through. Not as a weapon, as life. He placed both hands over her belly, feeling the storm beneath her skin. The child was fighting to be born, not by breaking its mother, but by understanding her, merging with her. The creature roared again, charging forward now. Eli could feel its rage shaking the ground, cracking the very dome they stood in. And then the light exploded. A blinding wave of white and silver light burst from the girl's body, lifting Eli off the floor. The creature froze mid-attack, screeching as the light wrapped around it like fire. Its limbs burned, its skin peeled, and it stumbled backward toward the hole it had crawled through. But the light followed it, pushing it back. It screamed until there was nothing left to scream. Then silence. Eli landed hard on the ground, coughing, his ears ringing. The chamber was dim again, smoke floating through the air. He turned to the girl, heart pounding. She was still, eyes closed, glowing softly. In her arms, something small moved. A child, not monstrous, not twisted. It looked beautiful, tiny hands, silvery skin like hers, but soft eyes that slowly opened and looked straight at Eli. It didn't cry. It reached out and touched his face. And in that moment, he heard a voice not from the child's mouth, but inside his head. Thank you. Eli knelt beside them, tears falling before he even realized. You're safe now, he whispered. You're both safe. But deep down, he knew this wasn't the end, because something ancient had been burned, but not destroyed. And this child, born of light and monster, might be the only thing that could stop it when it returns. Asterisk, the child didn't breathe like a normal baby. It glowed gently with every movement, its chest rising not with air, With light, Eli had never seen anything like it, and neither had the machines, one by one. The broken scanners powered back on as the infant floated slightly above its mother's arms. The alien girl Zira lay still but alive, her skin flickering between silver and pale blue. Her breathing was slow, calm, almost peaceful, but around them, the chamber continued to rumble with tension. Eli looked down at the child and whispered, "What are you?" The child blinked once, and suddenly, the walls lit up again, not from power but from response. The entire dome was reacting to the child's presence. Symbols that had once moved like slow rivers now pulsed rapidly. Shifting colors, languages, codes. Zira stirred and opened her eyes slowly. "He's not like it," she said weakly. "He chose his own shape." Eli didn't understand fully, but he knew one thing. This child wasn't just born. It had decided how to be born. Not a monster, not a weapon, but something new. The child reached toward a console, its small fingers glowing faintly. A low hum vibrated the air. And then, without warning, a hidden wall panel slid open. Behind it stood a tall black column, humming with power. Inside the column, a shape floated, curled like a sleeping beast. Zira gasped, her hand tightening around Ailey's. "That's the original," she said, voice trembling. "The first one. The one that made all this." The beast inside the column was not fully formed, just a long skeletal structure with sharp limbs and a coiled core. It twitched once, still dreaming. Eli stepped in front of Zira and the child, not knowing what he'd do if it woke. The child floated from Zira's arms, drifting toward the column as if called by something ancient. "No!" Zira cried, trying to sit up, but the child turned and looked back, not in fear, but in reassurance. It placed a single hand against the glass, and the lights dimmed. The structure inside froze, like something had hit pause on time itself. Then, the hum faded, the column's power dropped to zero, and the beast within it faded into dust. Eli stared in disbelief. Did it just kill it?" he asked. Zira shook her head slowly. "No, he unmade it. From its own memory." The child returned to her, curling against her chest like any newborn would. But its eyes stayed open, watching the walls, listening to something beyond sound. The ground was silent now. No more roars, no more shaking, only the deep calm of ancient machines going back to sleep. Eli helped Zira sit up, offering her water. She drank, then whispered, "He did it, my son. He ended the first nightmare." Eli knelt beside her and looked at the child, still glowing softly. "What happens now?" he asked. Zira looked up at him, tired but smiling for the first time. "We go back to the surface." But not alone. As they stood and walked through the opening the child had revealed, the tunnel ahead was no longer dark. Crystals lit their path, responding to the newborn's presence. And then, faint and distant, a sound returned. Rain. Eli hadn't realized how long they'd been underground. Now as they climbed higher, the smell of fresh air began to mix with the ancient dust. The final door opened slowly, and light poured in, real daylight. Blue sky and wind. Zira stepped out first, the child in her arms, her feet touching earth like it was the first time. Eli followed, blinking in the sunlight. No alarms, no military. No one knew what had happened down there, only them, the child. Looked up at the sky, then at Eli. Its thoughts were quiet, but Eli could feel them. "Thank you for hearing me." In that moment, Eli knew this wasn't the end of a nightmare. It was the beginning of something new, something not born of fear, but of choice. The first sound the child ever heard under the open sky was laughter. Not loud, not wild, just a soft, surprised chuckle from Eli as a raindrop landed on his nose. The storm above was gentle, a kind wind sweeping across the valley where the forest met the old mining zone. It felt like the world itself was breathing again. Zira stood quietly beside him, her bare feet sinking into the wet grass. The child rested peacefully in her arms, his glowing skin now soft and still, no longer pulsing like a warning, no longer changing shape, just alive. They had walked for hours, following the glowing stones the child had awakened along the path. None of them spoke much. There was a silence between them, not empty, but full of meaning. Eli had no words left to explain what he had seen, and Zira had no words to describe what she had lost. But in the child's presence, those things didn't need to be said. The sun broke through the clouds as they reached a small hill. Below it, Eli saw the communication tower of his outpost. It looked strange now, like something from another life. So much had changed underground. But up here, nothing had moved. The world had kept turning, unaware of what had almost awakened beneath it. Zira stopped walking, her hand on Eli's arm. "We can't stay here," she said softly. Eli nodded slowly. "I know. If they find him," she whispered, looking down at her son, "they'll fear him." "Then we keep him safe," Eli replied, voice steady. "You mean, come with us?" she asked, almost uncertain. "I already did," he said with a faint smile. "And I'm not stopping now." The child looked between them, then reached up and touched both of their hands. In that moment, a small spark of light passed through all three. It wasn't dangerous, it was warm. Zira's eyes widened slightly. "He accepts you," she said. "He sees you as his family." Ele blinked, then looked at the child. "Guess that makes me some kind of space dad," he muttered. Zira tilted her head. "What is space dad?" Ele laughed, the first real laugh since the whole nightmare started. "Never mind," he said. "You'll get used to it." As they descended the hill together, Eli paused for one last glance at the horizon. He thought about the monster, the bones, the light, the screams. He thought about how one signal, one simple SOS in the dark, had changed everything, and how no one would ever believe what had really happened down there. But he believed it, because he had seen what no human had seen before. A child born not of destruction, but redemption. A life that chose peace over power, light over fear. At the edge of the forest, the child cooed softly, and the trees seemed to lean toward him. Birds landed nearby without fear, and even the wind grew quiet. The world was listening. Maybe, Eli thought, just maybe, this child wasn't the end of something terrifying. Maybe he was the start of something beautiful. Together, they walked into the unknown, not running from monsters anymore, but carrying something stronger, hope,